So this is part 2 of 3.5. And the first part, you learned how to expand. Okay, expand two binomials. Now again, we're going to learn how do I factor this to get into these two binomials. So it's really important to understand, like if we go above here, and we talk about this guy here, so negative 3 plus p, and then p plus 1, and then remember we expanded that to become p squared minus 2p minus 3. It's important to understand that these guys are called factors of this polynomial. Okay, so these are factors. These are factors of p squared minus 2p minus 3. Okay, so that's really important to understand. These are called factors of this polynomial or trinomial. Okay, it's just like how, remember, 8, it has factors of positive negative 1, positive negative 2, positive negative 4, positive negative 8, right? All of these things are divisible, or sorry, can divide 8. The way you got to think about it is this can divide this to equal this guy. Okay, so p squared minus 2p minus 3, if we divide negative 3 plus p, well, we're going to get p plus 1. Okay, so that can be kind of hard to understand at first, but it's just important to understand that these are factors of this polynomial. Okay, so how do we factor trinomials with the form x squared plus bx plus c? Okay, and recognize we're just dealing with x squareds that have a positive 1 coefficient, because remember, if nothing's in front of it, you can assume it's 1. So how do I factor this to get it into a form of like x minus a, or sorry, x minus a, or like x plus d? Okay, so this is what your binomials are always going to look like for trinomials that have a form of this. So what you're going to do is you're going to do the PSA method, so the public service announcement method. Okay, and what this is P stands for product. Your product in this case is your last number, the constant. Okay, so what two numbers, let's go like a times b equals your last number c, okay, or your constant. Okay, then your sum is what those same two numbers, which numbers add to b. So a plus b equal b in this case. And your answers would have to be these same two numbers. So recognize you're dealing with the same values. So a and b. Okay, so that might be kind of confusing right now, but let's move forward and kind of show what that means. Okay. So factor the following trinomial. So I'm going to use the PSA method. So product, sum, answer. My question is, what two numbers multiply to get to negative 5? Or yeah, what two numbers multiply to get to negative 5? So these numbers I'm just going to represent as a times b equals negative 5. Those same two numbers, which numbers add to get to negative 4? So a plus b equals negative 4. Okay, so what you can do here, if you don't really know, is you can list the factors of negative 5. So negative 5 factors, well, this is a special number because it's just divisible by 1 and 5. So positive and negative 1, positive, negative 5. So if we can see here that do one of these combinations of adding these numbers up, can they equal negative 4? Well, let's see. So positive 1 plus positive 5 equals 6. So that doesn't work. Negative 1 plus 5 equals positive 4. So don't jump the gun here. This is a positive 4. We need a negative 4. So what if we flip these two signs here? positive 1, so let's just leave it as 1 here. 1 minus 5, which is negative 5, equals negative 4. So there is our answers there. My a value could equal positive 1, and my b value could equal negative 5, okay? Because 1 times negative 5 gives me negative 5. 1 plus negative 5 gives me negative 4. Now, what you can do is you take these values and you simply plug them into your binomials. So your binomials will have the form where it's x and x, and then here we're going to put plus 1, and then here we're going to put minus 5. Okay, so there's my factored form. And you can check, okay, because we know how to expand. So x plus 1, x minus 5, and here we could quickly do a FOIL. Okay, so multiply my first numbers together. So that'll be x times x, which is x squared. Multiply my outer numbers. So x times negative 5 gives me negative 5x. And then FOIL FO, and now we've done FO, and now we're at I, which is inner, so 1 times x. And that will give me positive 1x. So we're just going to leave it as positive x. And then we will do our L, so FOIL, L is for last. So these two last numbers here. Positive 1 times negative 5 gives me negative 5. And we can combine like terms. So negative 5 plus x, well, that gives me negative 4x. So x squared minus 4x, this is 4x here, minus 5. And you can see that these guys, we have gotten our original trinomial. So these are the factors of this trinomial. Okay, let's maybe practice another one here. So again, we're going to do PSA. We have a coefficient of 1 in front of x squared, so we can simply just do PSA. So let's maybe put PSA over here. So what two numbers, a times b, multiply to get our constant, negative 6? Those same two numbers, can they add to positive 1? Okay. What is a and b? Okay, so again, we could list all of negative 6's factors. So that'll be plus minus 1, plus minus 2, plus minus 3, plus minus 6. Okay, now we could test all of these and see what happens. So like, we know that 1 times 6, or negative 1 times 6 gives us negative 6. So let's try that. Negative 1 plus positive 6, well, that just gives me positive 5. 5 does not equal 1, so that doesn't work. We could try and flipping the signs there, so it could be 1 minus 6, but that still won't work. That's going to give me negative 5. Okay, so 1 times 6 and any variation of the subtraction, the negative symbols, doesn't work. So let's go to now 2 and 3. So I know that negative 2 times positive 3 gives me negative 6, but does negative 2 plus 3 equal, what does that equal? Well, that equals positive 1. And that's exactly what we're looking for. We're looking for a positive 1. So these numbers, a could be negative 2 and b could be 3. Because remember, negative 2 times positive 3 equals negative 6. Negative 2 plus 3 equals 1. So now remember, our binomials will always have the form where there's an x and an x in front, okay, because we're dealing with trinomials where the coefficient at the front is just 1. And then we simply just take our answers here. So this will be minus 2, this will be plus 3. So there is our factored form. Okay, and remember, these two things here are factors of this trinomial. And you could check, you could expand it. So maybe on your own time, you can check and expand. And if you expand these two binomials, you should get x squared plus x minus 6. Okay, let's move on to this guy here. So x squared minus 9x plus 14. So again, we're going to PSA this. Your product in this case will be your constant again, which is 14. And that will be some number multiplying some number. Your next one, your sum, two numbers that add to -9. So these same two numbers, a plus b equals -9. So again, what kind of numbers can multiply to 14? Okay, well, let's talk about that. That would be 1 times 14, of course. That equals 14. But 1 plus 14 equals 15. That's not what we're looking for. 1 plus 14, that's 15. We're trying to look for two numbers that add to -9. So positive 14 and positive 1 do not work. Okay, what about, yeah, let's list some of these. So it's positive -1, positive -2, positive -7, positive -14. Let's try and deal with some 2's and 17's. Okay, so I know that 2 times 7 is 14. 2 plus 7 gives me 9. That's almost what we want, but this 9 here is positive. We're looking for a -9, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change both of these signs and try that, because I know -2 times -7 gives me positive 14. Remember, two negatives multiplying each other give you positive 14. So let's try that. -2 plus -7, well, that becomes -9. So it looks like I have found my solution. A is -2, B is -7. So remember, they're always going to be in the form of this, where x and x go here. And now I have -7 or -2, so -2, and then x minus 7. So there is your binomials, and it's factored. Okay. So what I would suggest doing is maybe practicing this one over here. Okay. Can you determine why the binomial's factored form is x minus 7, x plus 2? So once you get really good at this, you can do it in your head pretty fast. But that takes a lot of practice. Okay? Try and do this on your own and get to the solution here. This is a super important part of mathematics to understand. It can be very difficult to move forward if finding binomial factors becomes very difficult. Okay, so practice that one. Now, I'm going to move ahead here, and we're going to look at a few values here. So something to note is, remember, right now all we know how to deal with is things that look like x squared plus bx plus c. Okay, where it's just a coefficient of 1 in front of your x squared. Okay, so here, instead of x, this is simply t. Now, this one, we're kind of dealing with a problem here. It has -4 in front of my x squared, in this case t squared. But sometimes you can get rid of it by factoring it out. So we've learned this. This is like 2 videos ago. All of these have -4 in common. Okay, so I'm going to factor out a -4. So I'm taking out -4, and then I'm going to do -4 t squared divided by -4, which will give me just t squared. Right, so what happened there? I took -4 t squared, and I divided it by -4. -4 divided by -4 gives you +1, and you're just left with t squared. Okay, and then you got to take -4 out of -16t. So -16t divided by -4, well, that gives me positive, because those cancel out. 16 divided by 4, that gives me 4t. So this would be plus 4t. And then 128 dividing -4. I'm not too sure what that is, so let's pull out the calculator here. And we're going to do 128 divided by negative 4. And that gives me negative 32. So this equals negative 32. And that's my constant when I factor that out. Okay, so now I factored this out. And this makes my life a little bit easier. Okay, I factored out my negative 4. So now I can just focus on how to factor this out. So here I can just focus on this trinomial and apply PSA. So if I apply PSA here, my product it'll be the constant. So negative 32 equals two numbers multiplying together. My sum is positive 4. So those same two numbers, can they add to 4? And then from here, we are going to figure out the factors of negative 32 and talk about if they can add to positive 4. So negative 32, that will be plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2. Let's see, it wouldn't be 3. I don't know if 4 counts in here. Let's see. 32 divided by, well, it'd be negative 32 divided by 4. That gives me negative 8. So plus or minus 4, plus or minus 8 accounts as well, because 32 divided by 8 gives you 4. 32 divided by 2 gives you 16, so plus or minus 16, and then 32. So you have tons of options. Now, instead of trying and guessing and checking all these, sometimes it's a good idea, now that you have this all laid out, just quickly think what might add to 4. Well, here I see 4 and 8, and I know that 8 minus 4 is 4. So let's talk about the variations of that. So remember, these two numbers have to multiply to negative 32. So that could be like negative 8 times positive 4. Right, negative 8 times positive 4 gives you negative 32. What did these add to? So negative 8 plus positive 4, well, that gives me negative 4. I'm not looking for negative 4, I'm looking for positive 4. So that doesn't quite work, but recognize the sign was just off. So if the sign is just off, try flipping the signs of your answers. So I'm going to instead do positive 8 times negative 4, which gives me negative 32. And this will be 8 plus negative 4. 8 plus negative 4 gives me positive 4. Okay, so there's my answers. So A could be 8, and B could be negative 4. Because again, this both works. 8 times negative 4 gives me negative 32. 8 plus negative 4 gives me positive 4, which is what we're looking for here. So this, again, will have the form where the binomials and the x's are in the front, but in this case, this is not actually x, sorry. This should be t, okay? Make sure your variables are the same. So this is t in this case, which is what the variable is. And now it'll be t plus 8 and t minus 4. Now, one thing to remember is we factored out that negative 4. So I'm going to drop it down, because remember, this thing simply equals these two values multiplying together. So negative 4 times this will give you this guy. So it's important to understand that negative 4t squared minus 16t plus 128, okay, its factors are negative 4, t plus 8, and then t minus 4. Sorry. So that is how to factor things where you don't quite have a positive and 1 in front of x squared, okay? So let's maybe try this guy over here. So, again, we don't know how to deal with things quite yet. That's next video if there is not a positive 1 in front. So right now, is there a way I can divide out negative 5? Okay, so this one, I actually don't quite know how to deal with yet. So this guy, since I can't divide negative 5 out, because that would have to become 6 over negative 5, okay, this we will learn how to deal with in, I think it's the next video you will do 3.6, okay? So it's not impossible to factor this, but at the moment, can we take negative 5 out of 6 very nicely? Not really. So at the moment, you can't do too much because you can't divide negative 5 out by everything, okay? Let's move down here. Now these are interesting ones, because remember, we only need to know how to deal with polynomials where the leading coefficient has a positive 1. So I could divide out negative 1 here by everything to get this to positive 1. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to divide negative 1 out. So I'm simply just factoring out negative 1. And that will just change the sign. So this will be positive p squared minus 9p plus 14. And now I can apply PSA. So PSA here, again, what's my product? My product is my constant, so 14. So what two numbers multiply to 14? Okay. What same two numbers multiply to negative 9? Or sorry, add to negative 9. So A plus B. So here, again, what are the factors of 14? Well, it's plus minus 1, plus minus 2, plus minus 7, plus minus 14. Again, is it really useful to try and do like 1 plus 14, 1 minus 14? Not really, because you're only going to get like 15, negative 15, positive 13, right? Because you're just adding 1 to 14 or subtracting 1 to 14. So I'm going to focus on these two here. And this is good because 7 and 2, they can get to 9 somehow. We just need to be negative 9. So here, I know that negative 2 times negative 7 equals positive 14. Let's check. Negative 2 plus negative 7, well, that gives me negative 9. So these two actually work right off the dot. So my answers would be negative 2 and negative 7. So remember, drop this negative 1 that you factored out, and we can write it as x minus 2, x minus 7. And there's your factored form of this polynomial, or this trinomial. Okay, let's deal with one more here. This is negative 30 plus 7m plus m squared. Remember, this is just ordered incorrectly. I want it to be largest exponent going down. So m squared plus 7m minus 30. And then you can PSA this. Okay, so my product here will be negative 30. So two numbers that multiply to negative 30. Those same two numbers have to add up to 7. Okay. A plus B. And what I can already tell is 10 times 3 equals 30. I just need it to be negative, so one of these values need to be negative. So I'm going to do negative 10 times positive 3, which will give me negative 30. Negative 10 plus 3 gives me negative 7. I need that 7 to be net positive. So what I'm going to do is, this isn't my answer, but I'm just going to flip the signs. I will try 10 times negative 3, which still gives me negative 30. 10 plus negative 3, which will give me positive 7. So there's my answers. A could be negative 30. B could be 7. So here, I didn't have to factor anything out. I just had to rearrange. And this will be x minus 30, x plus 7. Okay? So I hope that was helpful.